Hey, everybody. Welcome to AI-powered support for reading development. My name is Miguel Gulen, and I am a Director of Professional Development with TCEA. I'll be your facilitator this morning, and if you haven't done so already, please introduce yourself in the chat, and feel free to post any questions you might have uh, in the chat. Now, let's begin. I'd like to introduce you to our presenter, Ahmad Hassan. Take it away, Ahmad.
Hello, everyone. Um, just looking at the responses in the chat. Um, Welcome, Vanessa. Welcome, Laurie. Welcome, Maria. All right, so I'm just going to start. Thank you, first of all, so much for attending the session. I'm going to try to make it as interactive as possible and still try to respect the time constraints. My name is Ahmed Hassan, and today I'm going to be presenting AI-powered support for reading development during the periods of K to 5, which is the most effective period to teach reading to kids. So the first half of my presentation will focus mostly on the reading development side of things, specifically reading comprehension, which is what we're aiming for. So we can lay the foundation for AI support to follow, right? My goal is to conclude this presentation with a practical user guide to help you and myself further understand and evaluate these AI-powered tools. This is a work in progress as I'm still researching this area and I'm still learning. I would like to point out that my focus here today won't be on clinical issues like dyslexia, but really on present day children who consume social media, especially in under-resourced communities. Um, Today, we have except high percentage of kids who are not eating well. For example, I researched that in my research, I found that 60% of American fourth graders are not proficient readers. And according to National Assessment of Education Progress, this trend has continuously persisted since the testing began in the 1990s. And since COVID-19 pandemic, this number has increased. One factor that is important to consider here is the use of social media, and we'll get into that later. Research shows that if we are not able to learn to read by the end of third grade, we are likely to remain poor readers. That means that we are going to fall behind in other academic areas. We won't be able to finish school, won't be able to get into college, probably live below poverty rate in such a knowledge-driven society, and some of us might even end up in really criminal activities. Therefore, early identification and personalized intervention are crucial for children exhibiting signs of learning difficulties, particularly in places where there's lack of resources at the school level, at home level, and that. A little bit about myself. My background is in EdTech partnerships, integrations, learning management systems, implementation, and support. I had this, a career while I was in university supporting teachers and administrators, with issues related to instructional support. And then later on, I joined an EdTech company during COVID, where I got to experience these ed tech tools during the period of explosive growth, and especially in the partnerships team. Then I'm also passionate about researching AI use in education, especially the use of like learning analytics and for creating personalized instructions and adaptive assessments to improve learning outcomes. And my academic background, I have a master's in data and management sciences, where my research focused on predictive risk modeling using qualitative and quantitative data. I'm also a new parent who's learning parenting and early literacy. So there's a bunch of that too that is actually really motivating me to keep learning and researching in this area. Um, So before I can get into the background problems, last December, I got selected to participate in the Learning Symposium and Hackathon at Stanford University, where a bunch of researchers came together and they started talking about early identification of learning capabilities and intervention for children with learning differences. I've since focused on learning difficulties as the core area of interest. I've been collaborating with different researchers. In this presentation, I would like to share my findings and provide, by the end of it, give you some questions to ask when you're looking into the marketplace to purchase in any of these schools for your schools or home, because it is a pretty saturated market. So just having that kind of a foundation will help us make better decisions and that work best for us in our context. And really the idea here is to support teachers and parents in teaching, reading. Reading is something that cannot be completely automated, teaching of reading by some AI or apps. The parents' connection is really, really important here, and the teachers involve instruction, personalized instruction as well. So some of the high-level background problems that are going to be sculpting this presentation is that reading does not develop naturally. Research has found that it requires explicit brain rewiring instructions. For example, we see, we hear things. Those are like natural skills, and reading is not. There's also additional challenges associated with English language, makes it even more difficult. For example, same letters sounding different in words. For example, there's read and there's read. Same letters, but producing different sounds. So it's something research has found that reading is learned statistically, meaning the more you read, the more you start to get a sense of how words are constructed, what words, how they mean in a context. So there's not a set rule of teaching these things, especially to kids. And then we have the screening tools. They identify reading difficulties fairly well, mostly effective between ages of 5 and 8 years old. Then the challenge is with personalized instructions for teachers, especially in under-resourced communities, because it's a really labor-intensive task. Addition to traditional risk factors, which we're going to go over as well, there is also use of social media, which is also impacting reading development big time these days. For example, in a very old study, and this was even before social media came in 1998, where these researchers found that the reading difficulty rate, they increased from 31% in grade 1 to over 50% in grade. It's an evolving nature of difficulties, right? There's also a need for advanced AI tools to assist parents and teachers in helping kids learn to read. And lastly, awareness of how AI can support reading is crucial, as this space is saturated, as I was saying, with new and old tools. So, the first thing is that we have to make a distinction between learning to read versus reading to learn. During the initial years of child development, it's mostly about learning to read, right? So, once they are understand the foundations like decoding, meaning that changing, able to convert the written text or visual on a page to a sound, and the linguistic comprehension, which means what these individual words means, becomes your reading comprehension. So what this is saying that if either decoding or linguistic comprehension is weak, that effect is multiplied. So that means that you can never have better reading comprehension without a good level of decoding and linguistic comprehension. This was a view that was presented in the 1980s. And then later on in 2001, Hollis Scarborough came and she presented this Scarborough reading rope view, which basically explains reading comprehension as a metaphor, and word recognition are strands that are woven together to create a rope, and this rope is skill reading. So skill in reading, being fluent in execution and coordination of word recognition and text comprehension. Again, reinforcing the fact that you cannot have reading comprehension develop if you don't have the language comprehension aspects and also the word recognition aspect, which includes your phonological, phonemic awareness, decoding, and sight recognition, sight word recognition. These are the key reading components. I've already talked about it: decoding, translating, printing words, phonemic awareness, ability to hear, identify, and manipulate individual sounds, phonemes in a spoken word. Then fluency is speaking quickly, accurately, with proper expression. Vocabulary is understanding word meaning, definition, and context. And syncretism, how words are combined into phrases and sentences. And lastly, we have comprehension, where we are understanding, we are remembering, and we are making meaning from what has been read, summarizing a passage, making inferencing, or answering questions about a storybook, right? Then that was the view previously, like about the research was doing based on observing people physically and the development of kids physically. Later on, what was happening in the brain was very easy for us, and this is what the neuroscience perspective tells us by the help of brain scans. So, we discussed many skills just work in tandem for reading to be proficient, right? We talked about, decoding and all that stuff. But when they actually scanned the brain, they found out that, we have visual processing, language processing, working memory, attention, and sequencing. And, it's miraculous human achievement, especially given that there's no natural reading region in the brain. Every child brain needs to figure out independently, right? So there's short-term, long-term memory, and this gives us an understanding about why we are doing things the way we are doing things in reading, right? Then we kind of go into more of like, how do we teach things? Here we get into the knowledge networks we create in our brains, then how things get stored in memory, and things such as blocked and interweave practice that promote learning, and also how we organize and retrieve information. All of this helps us understand how we learn, and this helps us more about how we teach, right? Again, just definitions of what I talked about as cognitive skill set, which basically underpin the foundation of literacy today: working management, sequencing, attention, visual processing, and language processing. What are some of the difficulties when it comes down to comprehension? First one is struggling to summarize, not being able to grasp the main idea, frequently rereading the sentences, making difficulty making inferences, confusion with character plots, lack of engagement, trouble connecting ideas, and and a lot of these things are actually related to how the use of social media is actually inducing, there's no such thing as inducing ADHD, but it's actually reducing attention spans, because you have this kind of TikTok way of consuming digital media, bite-sized media, where you just want instant gratification. And these things are helping this current generation of kids a lot, and possibly the reason why the rates have increased since COVID-19, because the use of digital media exponentially increased. So what are the before social media factors that contributed to the risk of reading difficulties? This comes from a study in 1998. These guys studied group risks, which means if in a group they are at risk if they attend chronically underperforming schools, came from low-income families, and and impoverished neighborhoods, and they have limited English language proficiency and speak at with a different dialect of English. And then some of the individual risk factors they study was that the parents had histories of reading difficulty, lack of literacy knowledge skills from preschool, lack of age-appropriate cognitive linguistic processing skills like phonological awareness, and have been diagnosed with early language impairment, hearing impairment, or medical diagnosis with reading as a secondary symptom, which is not the focus of this presentation. So what changed, right? What changed after social media came into picture, in early 2000s? Excessive digital use can impair information processing, which is crucial for reading, like we saw in, um, if you have any questions, you can please write in the chat and we can kind of discuss them afterwards as well. Then we have the attention span. We have short, oops, um, ability to sustain focus. We have social emotional skills that are being affected, limited real world interactions, hampering vocabulary and comprehension, and that also increases anxiety. And then we also have physical and mental health. Excessive screen time can impair sleep, motivation, and reading concentration. So there was this groundbreaking study in 2023 where GL Education conducted a global survey of 350 teachers. And basically, they came back and they said that what they found was that um, the children attention spans are eroding, their ability to engage in sustained reading, which is required for proficiency. This reduces their willingness to read for pleasure. The reluctance to read for enjoyment can also impact reading fluency and comprehension, both of which are essential to proficiency, right? So then we also have coexisting conditions like ADHD that affect the sequential processing and working memory, hindering in the coherent narrative understanding, slow processing speeds, reducing reading fluency, making reading laborious and less enjoyable. They have visual tracking difficulties, causing losing place on a page and disrupt reading flow. Fragmented and disjointed reading experiences, and lastly, the hyperactivity, which is making kids difficult to engage, and making it mentally challenging for them. And these are some of the recent development in reading difficulties. Now, how do we address these things, right? Like, what do we do with them today? So, like I was saying before, there's nothing can replace human intervention. So how can we do that? Well, we can read aloud to children, talking about words and pictures and sharing ideas about the text. The children sit down next to adults and they read aloud themselves. Then we coach them as they struggle with decoding and answer questions about the text. Then we provide them systematic and explicit instructions regarding reading fundamentals, rather than incidental learning about print, right? Then reading yourself, children who see adults reading and enjoying it as much, they're most likely to also want to read themselves, like monkey see, monkey do. Surrounding your child with book choices, the more take them to a bookshop or a library, spend time together, browse, and help them make choices, help them make that decision in terms of what they like and they want to read. Important thing is that they're reading something. Doesn't matter if it's comics or not, right? Like, and making reading a habit, and then they are more motivated to read. Then we need to limit the screen time, balancing real world interactions and activities such as outdoor play and books. Teach strategies when students learn to use them while reading. They are more likely to become more independent readers, like skimming, scanning, active reading as they go old a little bit. Then increase the volume, adjust the reading volume adapter to improve concentration and working memory. And then why is it so hard to do it, right? Like, I mean, the teaching is hard. Teaching reading is a very complex task and it requires extensive knowledge and training. This came from a study in 1990 and 1995. Then you have lack of time and consistency. Parents are busy in under-resourced classrooms. Teachers don't have time to have that kind of a one-to-one connection with the kids. And lack of just general resources at the school or a district level, right? So what can we do about that? That's where intelligent reading apps come. They can cultivate reading passion, offer a wide range of books, encourage you to discover enjoyable material, and develop a lifelong love for reading. There's also, features such as read alouds, instant pronunciation correction, and content matched to their skill grade levels to cultivate richer vocabulary and skill development. Then you also have They engage sight, sound, and touch using interactive games for improved learning, and personalized content to individual comprehension and pace for a tailored experience, right? So it's like they don't feel that the content is way over their head or it's just too basic. Like AI should be able to understand that, right? And we're going to get more into that detail. And then also track progress and provide detailed reports to teachers and parents to monitor and guide instruction. Can anybody wants to share, like, what are some of the most common reasons you have seen for students who are struggling to read? And you can turn on, you can speak on the microphone. No one? Oh, okay. Lack of practice. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Thank you, RK. Absolutely. ADHD. Not confident. Amazing. It's great. Yeah. Yeah. Dyslexia. Dyslexia. That's great. Great points. Thanks everyone for contributing. So um, now that we have established the foundation and about reading development and comprehension and some of the challenges we have seen, old and new, let's see what AI can do for us in this, aspect of application in education for teaching kids how to learn. Well, doesn't matter whatever the application is, AI can only do help us with certain things, and those things are what I'm going to talk about. So it doesn't matter, like, it could be any industry, but what AI can help us with recommendation, it can suggest resources or next steps. AI can help us categorize by identifying gaps based on, let's say in this case, based on their grade and skill level. Then you have forecasting and prediction. uh, yeah, reading and decoding takes too much time. That's right. Parents don't see the need to. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Great points, guys. Then you have forecasting and prediction. So AI is really good at like predicting reading difficulties by correlating them with known error patterns. You have computer vision. It can track eyes of children when they are reading. So you can tell like if they're able to lose their spot or they're going back and forth. So it can quantify that, right? Then you have automatic speech recognition systems, which actually translate the speech to text and then text to speech in real time. And then once this speech is translated to text or even speech itself, then comes natural language processing, which is the backbone of everything that we're going to be doing today, which is it can analyze written and spoken responses and it can understand their context. Emergent bilingual. Yeah. Then we have the content creation aspect of it, which you guys are fully aware of using with the use of LLMs. It can generate assessment and practice content. For example, there's also lots of free apps. There's one like from Microsoft called Microsoft Reading Coach, where you can pick up characters and a certain type of other selections to create a story on the fly. And things like that, right? So some of these advanced tools are able to take those things and make them more interactive, more personalized. Then the agentic AI, and it's a big topic, but I'm just going to summarize it for us in just a one line. It's basically able to perform a task by collecting data, reasoning and planning, adapting and learning over time, working collaboratively with humans and other agents to make decisions, take actions. It's like mini minions working together, and they have a little bit of memory, they have a little bit of vision, they're able to understand and reason data and that sort of thing, right? It can do all that by training on past data. For example, we can use, yeah, like in reading building of reading stamina, correct? That's right. For example, we can use reading screeners data collected on past students to determine if the student is at risk or at what grade level the student is reading and how far the student is from the grade level skill. It can help us identify specific areas where the student is struggling as well. So just a few, examples on how AI can help us here. Really, like when it comes down to provide like real-time feedback, right? Customizing the content based on we're going to go get into that stuff later, but just to set the stage here. And then what type of readers data we have, because AI needs to utilize data to be able to make these predictions, be able to customize these experiences, create customized assessments, right? So we have the speech. So from speech perspective, when a kid is reading aloud, you can measure their reading duration, accuracy, words per minute, sight words, how much of that is correct, right? Then from video, we can capture their eye movements, expressions, active participation, focus, mood. Then we have physical teachers input, parents input. Then we have in-app assessments. We have quizzes and questions. Then we know before we onboard on these kind of apps, it asks you like, what grade are you in? So it knows this is the grade you're at. We're going to start here. And then if you're not at that grade, we're going to take you down to where you are based on your skill deficit. And then lastly, the most important thing is that we have data collected on screeners to establish baseline benchmarks. For example, there's one called DIBELS, which is Dynamic Indicators of Basic Literacy Skills by U Oregon. And there's many of them. And we have collected data over the period of years and some even decades. And it tells us, okay, if this is the response to these kind of questions, the student is at this level. So we are able to train machine learning models on these kind of historical data, right? And because in AI and machine learning, you need a lot of data for it to train. So when new data becomes available, it knows how to make inference, like based on like what data we have at hand. And some of the data is, I think it's most of the data that we are able to utilize in the context of intelligent reading apps. And we talked about like what AI can do for us in a general sense, but now we're going to narrow it down what it can do in this specific context. How can it support reading, right? So it comes down to, based on my research, three things. One is adaptive assessments. AI can analyze your reading speed, your accuracy of word pronunciation, your comprehension in real time, and it can give you a detailed profile on your on a student's strengths and weaknesses. Then it can also do personalized instructions for you, right? It can create tailored content for you from different kind of stories or vocabulary drills to interactive tutoring, matching students to students' exact needs, right? Lastly, we have actionable insights where teachers and parents can receive clear insights based on data. It's not just giving them raw data. It's actually AI is reasoning based on that data and creating different predictions on those, right? Like what some of the weak points are, and suggesting the next steps, which is very important. Here we should also, make a point that, it should help at the end of the day, AI should be helping us develop the cognitive skills that underpin literacy, like we talked about, your attention, your processing, your memory management, right? And while complying with data ethics and privacy policies. And we'll go further into that as well. So the first one is I'm going to explain these three categories in more details. And these are basically a bunch of questions that we can ask when we're going into the market to evaluate these tools and see, like, are they able to do this? And if they are able to, how well they're able to do, are they able to do this? And are they doing that based on some research, right? So the first concept that comes into play is the zone of proximal development. This was a term coined by this research scientist. I can't remember his name now, but basically he says that assessments should focus on that optimal learning zone between independent and assisted performance to create a real-time profile of your strengths and weaknesses. So the student doesn't feel like I was talking before, the content is too above his head or too below. It needs to grab, and AI is really good at that, right? Um, then comes like comprehensive skills analysis. Is it able to assess skills beyond the basic fluency at the grade level? And is it adaptive? So phonological and phonemic awarenesses, right? When you say the words, is it just telling you the sentence, the word is incorrectly pronounced, or is it actually going to be able to go more than that? Then you have your fluency, which is the oral reading fluency, how accurate you're saying, how are you able to say the words and speak sentences fast. Then correct words per minute. When you're actually using the speech to text, you can actually see that these are the correct words or not, and per minute you can create these metrics, right? And AI is amazing at that. It can judge your vocabulary, word meanings with the help of quizzing, and then it can gauge your attention and memory skills, being able to build focus during reading, frequency of rereading sentences, pause duration, your eye movement, right? Are you skipping lines, losing your place? And also next word selection. And that's a big one because in AI, you can use predictive models so that when you actually say you're able to score correctly on one word, you should be able to progress to the next word, which should be either more complex and takes you to a more strategically takes you to areas that where you haven't been before, and utilize your strengths to make you even better at that. And then also at the same time, cover gaps. Like if you're not able to say certain words right, then it should come up with different sort of words, similar kind of words, to give you more exercise on them so that you start developing those skills. Again, using predictive models underneath. We have then memory and sequences, able to make inferencing, following a narrative, mixing a character, summarizing. Is it able to do that? These are some of the questions you should be asking when you're going out in the market. Then intelligent diagnostic, is it just able to go beyond right and wrong to analyze why a student is struggling? Is it able to analyze your errors and can differentiate between your phonological mistakes and semantic mistakes, meaning like comprehension of the text versus pronunciation issues? Is it able to measure your learning capacity, for example, through learning rate? And lastly, is it able to use audio waveform? Like, is it able to actually analyze the sound frequencies to determine the incorrect, phonemes, like individual sound? Let's say cat, is it just saying cat is pronounced wrong, or can it actually know like uh, these any of the individual sound the kid is having issues with? So you can actually do more targeted interventions on those sounds. And yes, AI can actually do that today. Then you have the voice recognition, inclusivity, which means that is it able to understand different accents, dialects, and speech impediments? Is it based on research, whatever it's doing, and what type of research is based on? Then the most important part is that when it starts onboards the student, is it making them feel intimidated? Like, do they feel like, oh my God, these assessments are too hard or too or is it a very gentle onboarding experience for them? So they stick to that using that app, right? Um, and the important thing is that we also have, like we talked about, natural language processing aspect of AI, which can basically analyze your written and spoken responses. And then when you combine that with predictive analytics, it can correlate specific error patterns with known reading difficulties or development stages, because machine learning is already trained on that sort of data, right? Katie is saying our school uses MAP testing for math and reading, which is an adaptive assessment. The data then breaks it down by skills, concepts, so teachers can target what skills to pull. Amazing. Yes. Then we also have CJ Mora could developing musical rhythm help children develop some of the skills needed for reading? I I hope so, and I think so. Music, I've been studying myself for my kids actually, and I've noticed that it's pretty mathematical, and it definitely teaches you sequencing very well. But there's also language is a little bit different because you have to translate. Like sometimes people don't know how to read music, but they can become amazing musicians, right? So there's a bunch of that as well. So as long as you're keeping these things, yes, any of these activities will help them. Um, Great. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next. So the first one, we talked about three categories. If you remember, the first one was adaptive assessments. Then the second way AI can help us is through personalized instruction. So, you know, is it like the support is real time? That's the fundamental question you should be asking. If the students is not able to do something right, does it tell you right away, hey, and gives you a targeted intervention to improve that skill or to make you realize that you did something wrong? Um, is it able to read aloud and encourage students to read aloud so you can assess and evaluate and create that kind of a more human experience? And is it able to highlight words as they're reading to improve their focus and comprehension? Is it able to ask questions about the text in real time, right? So it has to feel more dynamic and living experience, right? If it's very static experience, kids are not going to like that, right? The other important thing is that does it start with simpler concept and progressively introduce more complex material? And AI is amazing at that, right? Like that's one of those things that AI help us introduce in our lives today, that it's able to adapt and learn based on our usage. Holistic instructions, is it able to teach you higher order thinking skills like summarizing, critical thinking, and also connect reading to writing, which is also a very important aspect? Then you can ask, like, how does the tool keep student engaged beyond simple points and badges, right? So we talked about personalized content they are engaged with, related to their hobbies and interests and skill deficit, vast book collection they can use. Then you have engaging, it utilizes engaging gamification, different type of games it helps them play to keep student motivated. And so you can see that, is it a boring experience? Do kids really like spending time with that app, right? And then support for diverse learners, right? So does it have support for kids with diagnosed ADHD, like, building focus, working memory, sequencing? And remember, these things are not just for ADHD kids today. It's for every kid, right? Like it's um, it's going to help them improve these skills. Um, Delivery mode, like the kind of instruction resources it's creating, is it just for student practice at home or in class, or is it also helping teachers to use those resources and conduct these sessions in the classroom environment as well, right? um, One of the things that I was researching and I was really passionate about, how can we use the existing way of consuming social media and apply to kids so that they can start developing these skills? So for example, I was looking into creating like micro learnings kind of formats, like focus kind of scrolling, skippable interface. If you don't like something, go to the next. Repurpose them to build sustained attention, right? And based on the content they enjoy, effectively turning a potential distraction pattern in a tool for the growing their cognitive skills we talked about, right? So for example, an app can periodically increase the amount of text they see on each scroll, so that they're building that kind of stamina, reading stamina. Very important things. Again, I'm not sure this aspect is being explicitly developed in the reading apps, but I know that Microsoft has an immersive reader where you can adjust the text screen sizes, but it doesn't do it in this context, but it kind of have a similar sort of a context, right? So lastly, we have actionable insights. There's the insights provided. Are they clear in the dashboard? Are they useful? Can teacher really action on them while facilitating collaboration between them and parents, and then make fostering a strong home connection? Um, Is it intuitive, the data that is being presented in the dashboard? Or does it show learning trends and recommendations? Is the tool transparent? Is it explaining why it's flagging a student, in a as at risk, or is it recommending, why is it recommending a specific intervention? Then you have teacher workflow support, right? So is teacher able to save time? Am I able to save time? Is it automating my lesson planning? Is it creating differentiated materials for different kids? Is it providing me accurate, immediate feedback to students so that, teacher time is saved? So she more focusing on building that one-on-one connection, right? Is it able to allow teacher to engage with the student progress? Can she comment on them when they're doing it? Can she likes when they're doing something right? So the kids feel that they are being, watched, and they're being appreciated when they're doing things, and they're building their skills, right? So the important thing is that we shouldn't just be focusing on their weaknesses. We should also be celebrating their strengths, right? And then you have like is it the parents have a dedicated portal? Is it easy to understand? Do they have actionable resources they can they can use at home? And then lastly, does it integrate easily with the learning management systems in school, right? Some of the concluding thoughts I have is, always remember, that technology should always complement traditional reading methods for a well-rounded experience. We saw that, like, it cannot be replaced by AI. Then we should also monitor the usage of these tools to maintain student focus, and making sure that they're actually learning something, and providing guidance. Then we should regularly assess and provide feedback to ensure that technology effective improves reading comprehension. And lastly is that when we are selecting the tool, two of the things that we should be focusing on is that how much time we have for one-on-one instruction, right? If there is less time, means that we need a more sophisticated tool. And secondly, what are your reading teaching skill level? If you don't know how to teach reading because it's a very specialized skill, then you need to look for sophisticated tools. All right. And that's about it. This is my presentation. My time is coming to an end. I did actually created a working mock-up where I wanted to show you what some of those things look like, but I think I'm close to the end of time. Do you guys have any questions? AI reading sites. Yeah, Microsoft Reading Coach is a good one. Then I think there's one called Reading Works. There's also Lexercise. It provides you free assessments. It can tell you at what grade level are you reading. It also gives you dyslexia screening as well. But there's a lot. Like, you just search on ChatGPT, tell me some of the AI reading tutors, and it will give you a whole bunch of lists. But that's going to be very intimidating, right? That's why we need to have this kind of understanding when we go out there to look for the tool. AI, yeah, absolutely. You can look into Amira Learning. It has its own, there's readability, there's uh, Lexia, often collect data for training. Yes. Establish shared tools will safeguard. Absolutely. Right. Yes. And this is something when you're actually researching the tool, you can look into it. What are their, data privacy and ethical policies regarding your data collection, right? And those things should be the top reference.
Thank you, Ahmad, for all the great information. And for the audience, you'll be able to access the recordings in the app once we have those loaded. Those should be available by Monday of next week and accessible through August. Be sure to refer to your TCA app or the TCA app website for a link to your next session.